We continue on with our sub-battle for the month of May between Seahawks today and Vikings now. A battle of the Sams, the Vikings representing Sam Howell, former Seahawks quarterback, while the Seahawks representing Sam Darnold, former Vikings quarterback. Patrick Seatman, the host of Vikings Now, he said that they are bigger fans of Sam Darnold than Seahawk fans are. They still call him a Vikings guy. I'm not standing for it, folks. Let's win this sub-battle this week and show them who's boss. The 12s? Skull? Come on. What does skull even mean? I mean, that's dip for crying out loud. Subscribe now for the latest happenings of your favorite team all off-season long. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV, and we'll get started with today's show. Could Greg Newsome be on his way to Seattle? Welcome in to this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. I am your fearless leader, Tyler Jones, here with you. Thanks for joining us. We got some brand new trade rumors to get to, courtesy of the folks at ClutchPoints, who have named Newsome as a top trade target for the Seattle Seahawks. And we have discussed a lot about on this program over the last several weeks since the Seahawks did not draft a corner. What could they do at the position? Mike McDonald, after they re-signed Josh Jobe, was very vocal in saying, hey, we're glad to have Josh back, but we would like to have some competition for him. They haven't signed a big-name corner, so could they potentially be in the trade market for somebody like Newsome? Let's dive into what ClutchPoints had to say. If the Seahawks added Newsome, he would round out the starting lineup alongside Woolen and Devon Witherspoon. But is it even possible for Seattle to acquire Newsome at this point in the offseason? Newsome has plenty of upside as a player. The Seahawks could theoretically acquire him at a steep discount. The cornerback struggled with injuries during the 2024 season. He had hamstring surgery last summer and ended up missing the final 4 games of the season after his hamstring flared up again. Newsome will play on his 5th-year option in 2025, which is worth a whopping $13.3 million. That is a hefty price tag for a player with an injury history like his. The Seahawks should consider acquiring Newsome if they can get him for a reasonable price. I would not pay more than a 3rd-round pick for him. This is a bit jaw-dropping, I would say, that we're talking about Greg Newsome, because it wasn't too long ago the Cleveland Browns were so high on Greg Newsome, a young, emerging corner that was starting to come into his own, and now could he be in Seattle potentially here? I like Greg Newsome a lot. I understand there's some of the injury concerns there, but because you have Jobe as a backup option, then this could be worthwhile to take a chance and bring in Greg Newsome here. With that said, though, I have some questions as far as how this could play out. I'm not worried when it comes to trade assets or the contract situation, the 5th-year option and all that. Seattle has plenty of money. We'll dive into those numbers and the assets here in just a bit. But schematically speaking, Greg Newsome is a nickel back, and he is a very good nickel back, unlike the band. And so is Devon Witherspoon, who is one of the best nickel corners in all of football. So that means that somebody is going to have to switch positions and learn how to play outside, taking on that job from Josh Jobe with Woolen on the other side. And I personally don't know the answer to this question. Can either one of them play the outside corner spot and play it at a high level? Because that's a whole different ballgame potentially. I would think that one of the two could, and I would guess that Devon Witherspoon would probably be the more likely of the two to make the move to the outside corner spot. I think that Seattle, the long-term plans, they want to eventually have him at the outside corner spot anyway. But with that said, we ultimately don't know. If Mike Mack feels like he can make this work, if he is confident that, hey, if I put Devon at outside corner, or if I put Newsome at outside corner and they can play at a high level, then by all means, I think this trade would be a no-brainer. But if there is some hesitation where you feel like, you know what, neither one of these guys really belong on the outside, that doesn't really fit our scheme and our personnel, then you don't make the trade. To me, that's what this comes down to. Our pinned comment today, should the Seahawks trade for Greg Newsome II? You got two options on our pinned comment today. You can type T for trade, P for pass. Weigh in, let us know. You might get an ad break while the ad's playing. Get your votes in and tell me what you think. Let's get to know Greg Newsome II a little bit further. A 2021 first-round pick out of Northwestern. He was named to the Pro Football Writers Association's All-Rookie team in 2021. Plenty of experience in that 4-year stretch, 54 career games played with 42 starts. I think the injury situation might be a little bit overblown when you look at the numbers of games that he's been able to consistently play. 12 in 2021, 15 in 2022, 14 in 2023, and 13 in 2024. And he's had a combined 3 interceptions the last 2 seasons, 19 combined pass breakups. He's been very dependable for the Cleveland Browns. Now, the coverage stats aren't ideal when you look at the QB rating allowed of 112.5, and especially at the nickel corner spot where you're not facing the best receivers all the time. But some of the other statistics, completion percentage allowed about 63%. I can live with that, although I'd like to see that be better. Yards allowed, a little bit high at 491 with 4 touchdowns, but I've seen enough good beyond just the 2024 sample size that I would be optimistic about. Now, the grades that he had from Pro Football Focus this past season were not too kind to him, but like what we talked about with the statistics that we showed you, I don't think they necessarily tell the full story. You look at his numbers according to PFF, an overall grade of a 52.2, a run defense grade of 52.1, tackling grade was awful, 30.1, pass rush grade of 44.9, and a coverage grade of 54. But even with that said, I think he's still worth it in taking the chance on as far as that goes. And I don't think, you heard what ClutchPoints had to say of, what is it, third-round pick, more than a third-round pick. I don't even think you had to give up a third-round pick. I'm looking at Seattle potentially getting a deal done and giving up a fourth-round pick in 2026. I think that is doable to get a deal done. The Browns are desperate. That's a bad football team that could use all the capital they can, and this would immediately help this Seahawks team right now and not have to wait on a fourth-round pick next year, and there'll be more opportunities to get some of that capital back and some potential other moves you could make. The contract situation. So Newsome is entering his 5th-year option season of his rookie deal, and then he would, of course, need to be extended after that. What I would guess Seattle would want to do if they were going to trade for Greg Newsome is let him play this year out on the 5th-year option at that $13.37 million. And then, based on how this year goes, if he plays at a high level, if he stays healthy and all of that, then you work on an extension to keep him around long-term and go forward from there. I think that would be your plan of action if you were going to go forward with this potential trade. Speaking of trades, I think we're still another big move coming for the Seahawks team, whether it's a trade or free agency, whatever it may be. I think something's along the way. Who's a player the Seahawks should trade for before training camp begins? If you had to give me one name, what would it be and why? Let us know in the comments section who that individual is. We got rookie jerseys on sale now at chatsports.com/Seahawks rookies. Gray Zabel, Jalen Milroe, among many others. And we have their actual jersey numbers for you as well. Check out all the Seahawks rookies and get their jerseys. Now's the perfect time as you get the jerseys right at the start of their careers, and you get to wear them for the entire time they're in Seattle. That sounds like a great deal to me. And maybe you don't want a rookie jersey. That's okay, too. We got Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, Kenneth Walker, Devon Witherspoon. You name it. They're all there at that same link. Chatsports.com/Seahawks rookies is where you can get yours today. Men's and women's options, all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Chatsports.com/Seahawks rookies to get yours today. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. One common theme that we've seen with how John Schneider has rebuilt the Seahawks team over the last few seasons is through a young core. Sure, you have some veterans in that mix that you've brought in, like the Leonard Williams, the DeMarcus Lawrences, the Cooper Kupps of the world. But for the most part, the core of this team, when you talk about Devon Witherspoon, Charles Cross, Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, are all pretty young players. And even some other players that they've brought in, like Ernest Jones, is just now starting to enter his prime age. Newsome is still in the very beginning in that sense, where he fits that mold of the timeline that Seattle has found themselves in with some of these younger guys. And on top of that, too, you get some competition for Josh Jobe in this corner room with the guys that are there right now. You look at it, I think you feel pretty good about Spoon and Rick Woolen. But beyond that, there are some question marks here. Josh Jobe did a decent job, all things considered, but we haven't seen him in a full-time workload for this type of role that could potentially be asked of him. And I would feel much better if Josh Jobe is your backup, and if something were to happen to Newsome or Spoon or Reek, that he steps in that front, I think you would feel a lot better, and you'd have some real depth to this group. I think that would be the best option here if you're Seattle, whether it's Greg Newsome or bringing in another corner just to help out Josh Jobe, and then you would be in great shape. And if Jobe happens to outplay those guys in training camp, what's the old saying? Iron sharpens iron. Then that's great for Josh Jobe, and it's only going to make him better. I'm all in on this possibility. If they want to go after Greg Newsome and bring him in, I think it'd be a very good fit for what Seattle's trying to do right now. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now for free. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.